Right, dearly beloved, we are gathered here. Can you all hear me? Yeah, you poor buggers. Do you know, it's quite good this, because we've had Welsh representation, we have Northern Irish representation, and once again I'm a minority. Marvellous. Yes. Well, don't worry, because I'm half Scots, half English and half Whip. So, yeah, I heard that. I'll tell you a little bit about me, for those of you that haven't been bored to tears with it before, and how I ended up in UKIP, and how I actually ended up doing anything in politics. I went to a grammar school in England. Did you have them in Northern Ireland?
Oh,
yeah.
Still do.
You still do?
Yes.
You wait till you get a Labour government. And aged, what was I, 13 and a half, we went comp, okay, in the roughest town in England, Basildon in Essex. And I was sat there called Ernie when that bloody record came out, yeah? Yeah. Deep joy. I learned to run or fight if there were less than two of them. And they came in like t-shirts and jeans. I couldn't believe it, you know, grammar school boy, and this was the teachers. And I looked at this, and I'll never forget, ever, my mate Trevor Stern hadn't done his English homework. And I thought this would be good, because Trevor's always good for a litany of excuses. He should have been a politician. And he stands up, he said, well, Mr. Stammers, hey, just call me Al, Trevor, just call me Al. Okay. You know, we've been used to mortarboard, cape, and a bloody great cane, like he's got. So Trev starts banging on about this, that, and he said, hey, it's your future, man. Not a problem. And we all went, yes, and I left school with 1 O-level, thick as 2 short wanks. Yeah, it's the truth. Scheduled to get 5 O-levels and hopefully go in the Air Force like my dad and bomb various people. 1 O-level. So my father, in desperation, got me a job in the City of London. And for those of you on a serious note who are worried by the reasonable assertions that the world financial centres will move to such fabulous places like Strasbourg or Bonn or Dusseldorf, don't worry. 3 reasons. The English language, okay? It is a spoken language of business universally. Time, because the British invented time, okay? We decided that the world revolved around Greenwich. And we sold the world times. Bloody clever we are. London sits at 0 o'clock. So when the markets in America are closing, the markets in Japan are opening, and it spans. And lastly, and most importantly, because these people could work anywhere, yeah, in the world, the social life. We used to go out clubbing in the lunch hour. Honestly, get back at 2 like this, and then up at 6 the next morning to get into work early. My body stuck it for a year, then somewhat fortuitously we had a thing called the 3-day week. Yeah. For those of you too young to remember it, the government turned the electric off on Tuesdays and Wednesdays in the whole country. I think it was Edward Heath or Miners Strays, one of that lot. Well, as they just electrified the main line into London, it made it very tricky getting to work. So that was that career finished. Unemployment wasn't an option, because my father, although he wasn't a big fella, he was half Irish and prone to fighting anybody. So I used to go out in my suit, I'd leave, and then I'd have all of these overalls in a bag. I'd get down the road, change into these overalls, and go knocking on doors to do gardening, painting and decorating, anything. And I ended up driving trucks, working in shops, working on the building sites with a thing called a HOD. I used to carry a HOD carrier. The EU banned them. Marvellous organisation, the EU. I ended up on the doors in Plymouth, and that was fun. And in fact, everyone goes, God, blimey, the doors in Union Street, Plymouth, that must be awful. It wasn't that bad, because you had 2 sets of police, because you had the civvies, and you also had the MPs. So in actual fact, there was always someone around to help you out. I then ended up on the assembly lines at Ford's in Dagenham. I was on the Great Strike of '83, brothers. I was there. Oh, yes. We went on a smaller strike a couple of months before because they brought the tea round cold. We used to have big tea urns, as opposed to little urns. They had big tea urns, and the tea was cold, and we all stopped. We just stopped work. It was a jungle. It was a war zone in there. 6 weeks, and we nearly starved to death. I then went to Australia, got thrown out of Australia for an underwork permit. Marvellous. Came back, was in a squat in London, and I got a job flogging photocopiers. I couldn't believe I'd been given this job. I got an Astor estate, so me and Billy had somewhere warm to kip, because the squat was disgusting. So we slept in the car, went to Lambeth Public Baths, got washed and shaved, and I went to work. I then started my own company about 20-something years ago, and apparently I employ about 90 people now. I say apparently because I'm banned from working in my own company, because they say I'm an arse. Which is unfair, I feel, harsh. I mean, I walk in there, you know, we've got this lovely corporate headquarters and everything, and I walk in and I go, hey, how you doing? Why are you using a first-class stamp? And they just look at me and go, oh, why don't you bugger off? Which is unfair. But when you've had nothing, you remember it. Now, I was mildly amused by lots of what I've heard today. I've never been to Belfast, ever. And you guys, and the reason I'm here is him, actually, predominantly. Mr. Garvan. Every conference I go to, they're there moaning, "Cool, it's a 2-hour drive up the motorway, you know, and I'm not happy with it." You lot have flown across with all that crap. That stand, the badge, yeah, I wear the badge with pride. And I actually went to the trouble to find out what the bloody hands mean. Yeah, the whole thing, you know. And I came to, and I said to him, I will come and I will bore you lot to tears, because you really deserve it. And it's amazing. And okay, yes, I come in from the airport in a taxi, and I'm sure I haven't been taken to the rough bits, but I wrote my speech on the back of this wonderful document. And as an Englishman, and I suppose I am, although it does make me smile, and I said to someone else, you know, when I stood in Weston-super-Mare, because I've stood, like Neil said, you know, this might be the only election I ever got elected in. I stood in Weston-super-Mare, okay, and Weston-super-Mare in Somerset is probably the tastiest town in Somerset. You remember the Mods and Rockers, the older people? It used to be a riot in Weston. So the government decided to close the police station. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So in touch with the population. And I went into the council, because that's where you went to report the crime, and they had abused one of my signs. Can you believe it? They put swastikas on it. And I did a thing on social media saying it's amusing that they choose my signs to advertise their political leanings, and it stopped. So I go in there, and the woman looks at me, and she knows who I am. She says, "Oh yes, name." What do you, I say, "I'm here to report crime." Date of birth. I said, "Are you joking? I'm not giving you that. That's cool." Ethnicity, white male. I said, "I'm actually mixed race, and I find that very offensive." She looks at me. Well, I am. I'm Anglo-Saxon. She looks at me. Well, you know, unlike you lot, as the Reverend Spooner once called you, a bunch of, was it cunning Celts, I think. We are. The English are the archetypal mongrel race. What am I? You know, and that's why we are so annoying. Because we are part Celt, so we've got this love of art, fine art, gold. We're part Roman, so we know how to mix a bag of cement up. We know how to fight wars, and we're sort of organised, you know. We're also part Saxon, like my wife. I call her my good Saxon peasant, because she's quite a sizable blonde lady, and I'm terrified of her. But boy, can she work. And we've got this work ethic, this stoicism. We're part Viking, as the EU are finding out when we've had a gutful. You put us in a corner, we go berserk. We are, however, not French. I'll just clarify that for you. For those of you that may, the Norman invasion was not an invasion of the French. The Normans were Northmen. It's a euphemism for Northmen, led by a Viking called Rolf Ganger, who was 2 meters tall and couldn't sit on a horse, Ganger being Walker. He was Rolf the Walker, and they settled in France, and they thought the whole place was disgusting, so they invaded us. Okay, so the French thing, forget it. We've also, who remembers the Ugandan Asians? Yeah. Oh my God, 25,000. It was going to be the end of civilization as we knew it. 25,000 immigrants, oh my God. Well, of course, they've really pitched in, them, the Sikhs, and they've taught us to cut a deal, because we English were very embarrassed about money and stuff like that. Pretty good now, pretty sharp. So, a funny old race we are, a funny old bunch. And us, and hearing this today, and seeing those two sat there arguing passionately on the opposite, but sat next to each other. Yeah?
Kisses later.
You wish. I was about about to say it's like a dream come true, but I think more like a nightmare from your behalf. And we are a family. You know, we are the bloody Scots who just whinge all the time. The Welsh who actually have worked out, like, and the Scots have forgotten this, the Welsh have now worked out with the bridge being free, it's a bit of an opportunity for them. But it's going back to this pride thing, you know, and I've never seen so many Union flags. His tie, look at that. And I've got my Union Jack pants on if you really want to see them. Okay, Neil, sorry. It's an eyeful, I know. We are a family and we squabble and we argue, but we are a family, you know. And at the end of the day, I would like to think this European totalitarianist state, and that's what it is, make no bones about it. This is yet another manifestation of European totalitarianism, and we're 4-2 up at the moment, just like the World Cup years ago. Well, we are, you know. Okay, we lost to the Romans. And by the way, I want some compensation from the Italians for slavery. Seriously. We lost to the Normans, but we beat the Spanish, we beat the French, and we beat the Germans twice. So it's 4-2 by my reckoning. And it's going to be 5-2 shortly. Okay? Things like Right Bus, and I saw that and I thought, oh no, can you imagine all the Remainers will start banging on about this. And then Bamford's, isn't it? It's basically JCBs, have stepped in. I got into politics because I often portray myself as the guy who gets the shit gigs, and I've had to follow him, which is again great. I had to follow Mr. Brain's video at the Welsh Newport thing. Lucky me, huh? 2008, I got invited to a Tory party rah-rah in Bath by a local Tory councillor who was a nice guy. He was an ex-V bomber pilot. He was just a nice guy. And I said, I don't want to come to politics, that's crap. He said, no, come to this, it should be quite good fun. And we got Michael Howard coming. Do you remember him? Yeah, creature of the night. I said, can I have a word? Because I'd never met anyone famous in my life, ever. I nearly got run over by DLT, the disc jockey in London once, but that was it, the nearest I came. So he said, I'll get you to meet Michael Howard. So I meet this chap. I said, oh, Mr. Howard, I said, thanks ever so much. I said, my name's Ernie Warrender. I've got a small business in Bath. You're going to have to find a lot of money because Tony and Gordon have spent the lot, mate. Oh, yes, I know, yes. I said, well, look, there's a way we British businessmen will pay more tax with a smiley face. Oh, really? Yes, very interesting. I said, just allow us the opportunity to do business with our government. We've all seen the cars the police drive, haven't we? Everything like that. And he looked at me and went, oh, no, you're talking about protectionism. Yes, very. Oh, look, something more interesting. And off he went, you see. I thought, what a git. So, seriously, he certainly didn't upset my expectations of him. So I go in for the meal, and I have to confess I had a couple of pints of flavoured water, and I was feeling a bit brave. So they stand up and they said, oh, here's Herr Fabian von Richter, the gay German management consultant from London who's going to cut the mustard in Bath as our candidate. I thought, oh yeah, all right. And we've got Michael Howard. Any questions for Michael Howard? So he gave a little speech, and then so they were putting their hands up. Mr. Howard, what will be your position in the incoming government? Oh, Mr. Howard, where's your lovely wife? And all this crap. So he goes to sit. They said, right, there's no more questions for Mr. Howard. And I learnt at auctions, you wait for the hammer to come up. I went, oh, I did it. And I reintroduced myself, reintroduced what I'd said to him. And I said, so earlier on, Mr. Howard, you said you couldn't give a stuff about British business. Is that a personal view or the view of the incoming government? There is no such thing as the silence of a lot of people. Nothing. He started sputtering. I thought, oh? Now you must have met him. He's a barrister. He could have been the Prime Minister. I was expecting to be destroyed with a one-liner. He just sputtered. I thought, okay. I said, Mr. Howard, never mind that. I said, we'll do a quiz. You're in France, you get nicked for speeding. What car's the policeman driving, Mr. Howard? I said, it's a Renault, Mr. Howard. It's a Peugeot. It's a Citroen. It's all tendered for by fair EU tendering, Mr. Howard. We'll do Germany now. You're in Germany. I said, we won't bother. I've made my point, and believe you me, you've made yours. Thanks a bunch. And I sat down to deafening silence. And two people came up to me. Big lady from Chile. She said, I'm sat next to Mr. Howard. He wants to know where you're from, why you're here. I said, I am what I am. I've just got invited here. I'm a businessman. I can't stand seeing our police driving around in Mercedes vans and Peugeot vans while LDV, Leyland DAF vans go bust. BMW cars, Volvo would sooner buy from people like Canon, who brilliantly avoid paying tax in this country because they funnel it back to Japan. Fair play. Oh, okay, so off she goes. The Frenchman comes up and goes, Monsieur, for what you say, I say yes. In France, this would not happen, no. He just walked off. Oh, okay, fair enough. So I went and joined UKIP a week later. I did, honest truth. And I stood, they said to me, would you like to be a Member of Parliament? I thought, we'll have some of that. Absolutely. Right, you can be the candidate in Bath. Marvellous, what do I do? They said, we don't know. So not a lot's changed. And I said, well, what's the plan? Sorry? Lost me there. And so anyway, I said, I'll give it a go. I'll give it a go. And I went to, I'd never spoken in public before, you know, I hated it. I'd never done anything like this before. I was only a salesman because I couldn't do anything else. There was nothing else I could do. So I go to Bath University Students' Union, Hustings. And for those of you who don't know Bath, it's Brighton on the Avon. They return a Liberal Democrat MP who's more concerned with taking pictures up her skirt or something. I don't know. It's too confusing for me. 2,500 of them. And I walk in there, and the chair, head of the student union goes, oh, you're a fascist, aren't you? I thought, this is a good start, isn't it? I said, that's a bit harsh. She said, you're just a Nazis. I said, what's Nazi mean? She said, oh, fascist. I said, no, sweetie, because they don't like being called that. What does it mean? I'll tell you what it means. It means National Socialist German Workers' Party. So it's actually you, not me. You're not very nice, are you? I said, Hitler, 18 million. Stalin, he was another socialist type, wasn't he? 22 million. Pol Pot, 3. Castro, 300,000. Oh, Mao, 60. I said, you're 60 million, you're vile. I said, the worst you can level against me is Sir Walter Raleigh. Greatest mass murderer in history. Fags and chips. Well, potatoes and tobacco. Well, of course, they have no sense of humour, the left, do they? Just look at me. And I'll never forget the first question, because you can imagine, Mr. UKIP, I'm hanging off the right-hand side. He's even got a chair for me. What is politics? Foreign student asked, what is politics? And they all stand up, Don Foster, the MP, and Herr Fabian von Richter, the Conservative, all of them. It's about power. Power, it's about effective use of power for the great power. And he said, right, that's that. I said, do I get a go? And I stood up and I said, listen to them. They're power mad. Power. In this country, politics is about the effective implementation of the democratic will of the people. And they looked at me and I got a round of applause, which astonished everyone. And I said at the time, Theresa May would have done well to have listened to those words. I then get lumbered with, 2015 I stood in Weston-super-Mare, and I just wish I'd had you lot there, because the Western team were just amazing. And if I had you lot as well, we'd have done the place, we would have done it. We got nearly 9,500 votes. We did so well there. And I get Glastonbury hustings. Glastonbury, we all know what Glastonbury is, yeah? Oh, terrific. I walk in there and I'm going, cool, blimey. Nice. And I've walked in there and been called a Nazi twice. And I couldn't care less now, I'm floating. So we're all sat there. And it's not going too badly. It's okay, I haven't been beaten up or lynched. And she stands up. She's got to be 75. Green, blue and red dreadlocks, tattoos, piercings and a full-size blow-up doll of E.T. I promise you. And you know at school when you knew the questions coming your way and you go like this, you go, oh shit. She goes, you, Mr. UKIP. Oh, hello. This is my friend and my lover. And he is a genius. He's from another planet. He's brought so much to this world and he's an immigrant. What are you going to do with him? And I looked at her and I went, phone home. And the whole place collapsed. And I got on okay with them after that. And this, at the end of it, this little hedge monkey comes up to me and goes, I hate UKIP. I went, no, I'm sorry. No, he said, I'm going to vote for you, mate, but I hate UKIP. And I thought, yeah, I'll have that vote. I'll take that vote. I then got lumbered with some of the other gigs I get. Like, 85% Labour rosette-wearing audience in a church in the Forest of Dean, because the Forest of Dean itself is very Labour. And I just stood up and I said, who chose this audience? The BBC? And the vicar was very good. He said, now I'm going to ask everyone a question. You get 1 minute and then I just cut you. He said, right, first question, quite easily. Ernie, he said, I'll start with you. Did you vote to leave the EU? I said, yes. He said, well, that was very short. You finished quickly. I said, I've been told that before, actually. And in a church, that went down really well. Now, something that did make me laugh, actually, I do follow Twitter. I have quite a laugh on Twitter, actually, because I try and poke a stick in the lefties, but they just don't play much. And there's a Southern Irish group that want Brexit, you know. There is actually, and they're quite funny. And they put on there quite an interesting tweet, because, like I say, as an Englishman, these places on here, Ards, Newton Abbey, Antrim, Armagh, Craigavon, they're all just names on the news to me, and not pleasant names on the news to me, you know. And I should have known that the British ability to poke fun at ourselves overcomes everything, absolutely everything. And they put a thing on there saying that the Irish media and the Irish liberal intelligentsia are now so Europhile, if the EU bombed them, they'd say it was their fault, you know? And I thought to myself, what a thing to write, given the history, you know? And it does make me smile. There's several things that I could say, and I'm not going to go on too long, because I was on the NEC briefly, okay? I don't mind admitting that. I do think that we have to sort ourselves out. We are a family, and this is the place to sort the things out, not Facebook and Twitter, okay? And this business about, well, it's basically, isn't it, sackings will continue until morale improves. Well, it's true, isn't it, for God's sake? We aren't at a crossroads anymore. We're not at a crossroads, we're at a precipice. We are at a precipice. We were at a crossroads. I look back on our performance in elections, and I have to say we took the wrong turning. I have to say that. And I have to say that numbers dictate that. They cannot be argued with, you know. Well, ish. I'll never forget some half-wit banging on about statistics to me in the EU and how bloody marvellous it was. Statistically, this statistic. I said, well, yes, but do you realise it's statistically safer to fly in a plane when the pilot is absolutely paralytic? Because 99.9% of all plane crashes occur with a sober pilot. Didn't shut him up, but he did smile. And just remember that when you're talking to someone, you can say anything you want with a smile on your face. Okay? And with a face like this, I've got to have some positives. We have to unite. We have to come together as a family. We have to accept we have differences. The messages, I mean, I got another great gig. I stood as the lead MEP candidate in the European elections, okay? I was the number one. I had the number one hot seat, West Midlands. The biggest vote leave area in the country by a metric mile. They contributed nearly 600,000 votes towards the 1.4 million, okay? And I watched my chances go from sort of dead cert to zero. Why? Because Neil touched upon it, Tommy Robinson, and there were ways to deal with this, but the media would literally go la 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 la. You could not. They're not interested. You saw Gerard put on some fabulous performances. You know, not listening. Not listening. They just at you. These people are not reporters. They see themselves as little newsmakers. They're not reporters. Who remembers Parkinson, yeah? Parky? He'd get a person on there, he would recognise that person was the star, and he would light the blue touch paper, and he'd retire. Muhammad Ali, whoever he had on there, he'd wind them up, sit back and shut up. They don't do that anymore. I got Birmingham University Students' Union hustings, Mr. UKIP. Joy of joys. So I go in there, and they're banging on about climate change. Neil's touched on it. And I thought, oh, great. So I actually did a bit of research, because you can be a genius in about 2 minutes on Google. Oh, I know everything about everything now. Well, my friend does. And they brought in, and this really hacks me off, they're all there, and 2 parents have brought in their little bobber. It's 11. And never engage with children. Don't ever do it. Smile sweetly and go, oh, isn't that nice? They're so politically involved. Anyway, next question. Do not engage with them. You can't win. So this little girl bangs on about her future. Oh, the green lady, she can't get enough words in her 2 minutes. So I then saw that me, Mr. UKIP, climate change, university, brilliant. So I said to them, I said, look, I didn't actually much believe in this, and I was a bit cross about these climate change activists. Totally messing up an economy, and I don't know what their underlying reason is, because we didn't at that moment in time. We now know they're what they call ego warriors, they're not eco warriors. I said, but I did a bit of research. We had a thing called the Ice Age. Have you done that in geography? Yeah, Ice Age, yeah. We weren't around much, wasn't our fault, wasn't me. I said, it wasn't me with my big V8 car. But before the Ice Age, we had a thing called the Eocene epoch, which came before the Ice Age, with the whole planet heated up to 35 degrees. Wasn't me, I didn't do it. It comes and it goes. But I said, there is a way that you guys can help the future. Try turning a light out now and again. Try closing a door maybe. And all these kids sort of start giggling. I said, people bang on about their heating. I've got a heating app. And they say, oh, I've turned the heating down to 20 degrees. 14. I've got the only teenage daughters walking around in long johns and 3 jumpers and a hat. You can say what you want with a smile on your face. You can. Another gig I did with kids, where UKIP had been thrown off stage 2 years previous. Stroud, blimey, it makes Brighton look a bit radical. And these kids, voting age, 16. So up they stand, Labour, Lib Dems, Greens. Oh, we think 16-year-olds should have the vote. We think embryos should have the bloody vote. Marvellous. Oh, marvellous, yes, great. The Tory stands up and, well, it's against our policy, and he gets booed, gets roundly booed. And I thought, oh, this is going to be fun. So I stood up and I said, look, I have no education. I have no formal education. I do not understand the stress and pressure of an education. I treated my whole school years as a joke. Okay? Sorry. But I've got an 18-year-old daughter doing 3 A-levels. Who in here is doing 3 A-levels? Of course they put their hand up. Some of you are doing 4. Yeah. I cannot believe the pressure she's under. It is just, I can't believe it. She's working till 2 in the morning, and I know she is, because sometimes I break in because I think she's on Facebook. We've got youth mental health at an all-time low, and this lot, all of them, oh, they weep crocodile tears and wring their hands. They do nothing about it. They do nothing about it. And they would lump the single biggest decision of your life on you, and I personally think it's that 4-letter F word. No, it isn't fair. And I got a round of applause for this. Similarly, we have to find a way of getting our message across. 4 million people jumped up and down, and the shockwave made Cameron crap himself. We got our vote. UKIP got the Tory party to change its policy on grammar schools. UKIP got the government, I'll call it, not the Tory party, it happens to be the Tories, it got the government to appoint a veterans minister and spokesman. That's us. That's you. We ain't going to do it on 0.4%. I will make you a prediction and promise you that. All right? I wear this with pride here. I don't wear it in England. And that's a shame. That's a bloody shame. The message, again, Neil said, I do my little hustings at this thing, and there was a full-blown Muslim chap there with the little white hat and the white dress and everything. Proper Muslim chap. And he asked me a very awkward question, which somewhat luckily I knew the answer to, and he came down. And they come right up to you, and he said, what do you think of Tommy Robinson? I looked at him and I said, well, actually, I think he's a bit of an arse, if you want my opinion. I've never met him, but, but I said, do you deny his message? Did you think this was happening in our country? These people being groomed, I mean, it's shocking, it's appalling. I said, however, anyway, never mind that. Your question about Jaguar Land Rover, and I've learned to breathe through my bum so I can talk through my mouth for about an hour continuously. As opposed to Labour politicians who breathe through their mouth and... Anyway. And then I just said, fantastic, marvellous, well, thank you so much for your question. Oh, I must just go and... I learned that bit off Michael Howard. One thing, and I don't know if you've got it in Belfast, because we've got quite a bit of it in Cornwall and Wales. Project funded by the EU. Did you get that?
Yes. Oh, yes.
What a crock. Project funded by the British taxpayer with a bit of skimmed off for us to buy 4,000 bottles of vintage champagne, etc., etc. Yeah. Oh, it makes it incenses me. This government, this Westminster, no, not government, this Westminster, 30%, because I found this out, 30% have never had a job. Never. Degree in philosophy and politics, think tank or something like that, MP. What on earth? And while they were just rubber stamping legislation from the EU, it's great, they can do that, quite good at paper and stuff. Now they've got to run the joint, they've got to run GB PLC, and why do you think they're terrified? They're terrified. You've got Corbyn, the eternal protester, okay? He's never created, all he's done is protest and critique. And you've got Boris Johnson calling him a chicken, yeah? And if he does vote for an election, it will be like a turkey voting for Christmas. And either way, you have to admit he's foul. Now, no deal, yeah? It's always called no deal. It's such a negative, no deal. Any of you got one of them, yeah? Yeah, read the back. You'll need glasses, it's really small. It says, designed in California, that's America. Assembled in China, that's China. Neither of which have a deal. How did you get this? Smuggle it in your pants? No. Do you need a deal? Do they need a deal to sell it? You need a product and a will. Once you have that, then the politicians scuttle along afterwards, 5-star, paid for by us, and do a trade deal. Same as Chilean wine, Australian wine, New Zealand wine. Eventually the EU recognised they had to do a deal. Because we were going to buy it anyway. And they do a deal and the bloody stuff's dearer now. That's what annoys me. That's what annoys me. Japan. We've been trying to do a trade deal with Japan since I was at Ford's in Dagenham. They sent a delegation round because we were absolutely had it up to there with them not buying our Ford Cortinas and Fiestas, but they were flooding the market with Toyotas. Suddenly, the EU can do a deal in about 2.5 months, eh? Just like that. Amazing, really, isn't it? We in UKIP have got a choice. You either subscribe to being a shouty, right-wing protest group, getting abused, having, is it custard or milkshakes thrown at you? I don't know. Whatever. Or revert to what we were. There is a yawning chasm in British politics because of the polarisation of possibly Brexit. You've got Corbyn, and the one thing I will say about him, he is true to himself, him and his little commie chums. McDonnell is on record as saying we should salute the brave people of the IRA for their fight for freedom. And that makes me puke. I live in Herefordshire, all right? A lot of my friends live there too. Makes me vomit. If that is ever let loose on our politics, God help us. They abolished the grammar schools. The wonderful woman, wonderful Labour politician called Dame Shirley Williams, the older people remember her, sent her kids to Eton and St Paul's, then abolished the grammar schools as elitist. Yes. And now they're going to abolish the public schools, private schools, well, public schools, whatever. The fee-paying schools, I can never work that out. They're going to abolish them and confiscate, state confiscation of their property. Now, Diane Abbott, Lady Chakrabarti, Lady Nuji, they're all a bit uncomfortable with this because all their bobbers go to public schools. Hypocritical little so-and-so. We must come together. We must come together. There will be passionate debate on both sides. Richard, I tear my hair out because he's fabulous on the media. He's actually got hair because I told mine out. I mean, he is fabulous on the media. He is so good. But someone has to be the bigger man. I think that's the expression. Someone has got to come. There has to be a coming together, or not. And whether that is through an EGM to clear the air, and then for people, because I will be brutally frank with you, and especially yourself, I will not go into a university and defend someone who labels all Muslims Nazis. I'm really sorry, I ain't going to do it. I can defend anything. I went on the BBC politics show. You look perplexed. Look it up. Richard Brain compared them to Nazis. I went on the politics show and they start banging on about, what was his name? The Sargon of Akkad. These two who were meant to bring us millions of members. They start banging on about that. Wash your hands afterwards. And I sat there and you got some old baggage from the Tory party, God knows who, and a dreadfully racist Indian Labour Party woman, shocking woman. She stood up at her acceptance speech as an MEP and called all the Brexit Party people fascists. Shocking woman. And he said, right, Sargon of Akkad, this, that and the other. I said, well, could you in the media at least play both sides of the record? Please. This all emanated from an MP, an elected position of respect and dignity, laughing at male suicide. And this guy's uncle had killed himself. So could we play both sides of it? Oh yeah, but do you think that's funny? I said, woo, woo, woo. Do you think it's funny she laughs at it? And he literally just turned his back and spoke to the other two. They will not listen. For the self-same reason, if you attempt to, and it's a British thing, you know, the old British compromise, the old British fair play and all this, if you attempt to vilify one particular aspect of the population, whether or not it is justified, we don't like it. We just don't like it. There's ways and means, and the first thing we have to do is we have to get power and we have to get elected bodies and we have to get elected members, because then, and that's politics, okay? That is politics, and the clue's in the name. Politics, poly, many or numerous, ticks, blood-sucking parasites. No, sorry, that was something else. Sorry. It's politics, and you should behave in a politic fashion, okay? And the way to get an attractive woman to go out with you, especially looking like this, is not to walk up to her and say, yo, love, fancy coming out tonight? No, you've probably got to work at it for a hell of a long time in my case. And that's politics too, okay? I just, yeah, I heard that. You good-looking boy. A few business stats, because I was the small business spokesman and I said I didn't want to do it anymore, but Forbes, .com, who are the biggest business world pundits, grudgingly put the UK as the #1 place to do business in the world ahead of America. They are American. That was in early part of this year. Look it up. We are the best place in the world to do business, because slowly there is a dawning realisation, despite the morons who sit in Westminster, we are America's gateway to Europe, and conversely, we are Europe's gateway to America. Okay, two nations separated by a common language, but Trump, God knows why, but he seems to like us, probably because he owns his vested interests, he owns half of Scotland, but God knows why. And I think Boris and him will get on a bit. And I personally think we've got to talk about, I will call it an elephant in the room, but I don't know, maybe hyena would be better. Nigel. Nigel is awesome. Awesome. Without Nigel, we would not be where we are today. He is probably one of the most influential post-war political figures. I don't think that's unreasonable. Sadly, I believe he is becoming the person he despises. He is becoming a propol. But I believe the best thing they could do with him is make him something like a special envoy to America, because he has this, for some reason, him and Trump seem to get on. And we do need that bridge, that link. And if you don't want to eat chlorinated chicken, don't eat it. Don't eat it. Not a problem. Say, oh look, chlorinated chicken, I'll buy the other one. You know, it's not rocket science. We'll always have choice. I'm going to close now. And I will, if anyone wants to ask me any questions, obviously in the best way of politicians, I won't answer them, but you're welcome to have a go. If there's anything you want to know, seriously, just fire away. Excellent, that's what I like. Take care, bye. Marvellous. Thank you.